have one more talk tonight, so we're going to give our attention to Brother Carlos Davila. He has the character Ahithophel. Theme, Jehovah works the schemes of traitors. Let's listen.
You heard that one of your family members became a traitor. What would you conclude? That he treacherously switched alliance? He's a ridiculer, or maybe even a murderer. Well, Joel provided an example of a treacherous traitor by the name of Ahithophel, who did just so. As David's personal advisor, this individual. This once close friend or companion treacherously turned traitor and joined David's son Absalom in a coup against King David, Jehovah's anointed king. He became a ringleader in this rebellion. He advised Absalom to violate David's concubines. And he asked permission to raise an army of 12,000 in order to hunt down David and kill him. Let's read the account. Would you please open your Bibles? And let's go to 2 Samuel, chapter 16, and we'll be reading verse 20. And that says, Absalom then said to Ahithophel, "Give me your advice what should we do?" At that, Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Have relations with your father's concubines, those who he left behind to take care of the house. Then all Israel will hear that you made yourself a stink to your father, and those who support you will be strengthened." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and Absalom had relations with the concubines of his father before the eyes of all Israel. In those days, the advice that Ahithophel gave was considered as the word of the true God. That was how all the advice of Ahithophel was esteemed both by David and by Absalom. Ahithophel then said to Absalom, "Please let me choose 12,000 men and raise up and chase after David tonight. I will come upon him when he is weary and powerless, and I will throw him into a panic, and all the people who are with him will flee, and I will strike down only the king." And then at the end of verse 3 he says, "Then all the people will be at peace." Now, would Jehovah give that type of counsel? I don't think so. However, Absalom apparently wanted a second opinion. I mean, what else could he do? So he called an individual by the name of Hushai, which was David's dear friend. Let's read that account. And that's in 2 Samuel. And that's chapter 15, and we'll start at verse 31. 2 Samuel, chapter 15, verse 31. That says, and this it kind of tickles me a little bit. It says, David was then told, Ahithophel is among those conspiring with Absalom. At this, David said, "Turn, please, the advice of Ahithophel into foolishness, O Jehovah." He prayed to Jehovah immediately. When David came to the summit where people used to bow down to God, Hushai, the Archite, was there to meet him with his robe ripped apart, dirt on his head. He was upset. However, David said to him, "If you go across with me, you will be a load on me. But if you return to the city and you say to Absalom, 'I am your servant, O king. I was the servant of your father in the past, but now I am your servant,' you can then frustrate the advice of Ahithophel for me." Yes, Hushai advised Absalom not to listen to Ahithophel. Jehovah thwarted this bold scheme, and the counsel of Hushai was followed. Then Ahithophel evidently realized that Absalom's revolt would fail, so he committed suicide. This is the only suicide in the entire Hebrew Scriptures. So what do we learn? We learn that we should always follow Jehovah's arrangement. Follow the faithful slave and the elders. Live in harmony with the associated or brothers and sisters, and do not, and I repeat, do not look for your personal gain or interest.
Thank you very much, Brother Davila. We enjoyed that. And you were asked to apply to your talk tonight, study point 32. And I don't think there's anybody here that didn't think you applied this study point, expressed with conviction. Because really, you have a natural way of doing that. But even tonight, you did a little bit more. You did it quite nicely. It says, speak in a manner that shows you're fully convinced of the truthfulness and importance of what you were saying. And certainly you did that. And we know you didn't feel too good tonight either. We'd like to express our appreciation for just coming and following through on your assignment. But really, when we're convinced of something and we apply conviction to it, it says here, why is it important? Your conviction will encourage others to consider seriously what you say and act upon it. Well, the seriousness tonight was really a very serious problem, wasn't it? Being a traitor, scheming to do wrong against Jehovah, against his organization, against his purpose. And you showed that that's a very dangerous place to be. And certainly it proved that, didn't it? So we want to thank you for that. And also, we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but when we're convinced of something, we can also use words that show it. Not just our demeanor or our expressions and our face, and we can also do it with words. And Jesus did that quite nicely. Of course, none of us are going to preach like Jesus, but you may recall on numerous occasions he said, most truly I say to you. You see how convinced he was he had the truth. Most truly I say to you. And Paul did things like he said, I am convinced. So in other words, when Paul was expressing something, he would say, I am convinced of it. And see, it didn't matter how his face looked or what kind of expression or maybe a gesture, his wording alone would show that he was convinced. So I want to thank you too for that tonight.